Click the bell icon to get latest videos from Ekeeda.
Hello friends, we'll be discussing an illustration regarding types of shares. In the previous video, we have learned about different types of share capital that we have. There is a problem based on it. Let's go ahead and figure it out. So when we speak about types of shares, we already know that the share capital is divided into different categories, namely authorized capital, then we have issued capital, then we have subscribed capital. Apart from that, we have called up capital, paid up capital, and then reserves capital. Now we have an illustration mentioned here. We'll go through that illustration first and then we'll figure out how to solve this illustration. It is basically noting down the values and then writing it down whether the segregation is correct or not. Let's go and figure it out. The statement says that the company has an authorized share capital of rupees 1 lakh, out of which that means 1 lakh segregated into 10,000 shares of rupees 10 each. That is the first important information provided here. Let's go ahead and see what else do we have in the form of questions here. It decided to share or to issue 6,000 shares for subscription. That means it issued 6,000 shares. However, the shares that got subscribed is for 7,000 shares. It allotted 6,000 shares and the balance, that means the additional shares that came in for subscription, they were rejected completely. Up to 31st December 2014, they have called up only 9 rupees per share. That means the value of the share is rupees 10 and they've called up only for rupees 9. Rupees 1 hasn't been called up yet. All the shareholders have paid up the amount except one who holds 500 shares and who has paid only 7 rupees per share. That means all the shareholders, so 6,000 shareholders were there, or rather there were different shareholders who were holding 6,000 shares in total, out of which there was one shareholder who did held 500 shares and he has paid only rupees 7 for all those shares. So rupees 2 hasn't been paid for 500 shares yet. Now we have to figure out how much is the authorized capital, how much is the issued capital, how much is the subscribed, how much is the called up, how much is the paid up, and what are the calls in arrears. Let's figure it out. Now we have mentioned that the authorized capital is rupees 1 lakh, number of shares is 10,000 and the value of one share will be rupees 10. So the authorized capital will be 1 lakh for sure. Now, if you know, in the question it stated that they had issued 6,000 shares for subscription. So we have to figure out how much is the issued share capital. So the issued capital is, that means the issued share capital is 60,000 rupees. 6,000 shares multiplied by 10 rupees, that is the value of one share. Let's figure out how much is the subscribed. If you know, in the question it was mentioned as 7,000 shares were applied for. So that many number of shares multiplied by rupees 10 will be the amount of subscribed share capital. In the question, they have already mentioned that the subscribed capital is 7,000 shares, out of which 1,000 shares have been already rejected. That means they were given back the application money. Further to this, we have to understand how much is the called up capital. If you know, called up capital is only for 6,000 shares because 1,000 shares were rejected. So only 6,000 shares will be taken into consideration. However, out of those called up capital, we have to understand how much we have to receive. So first we'll mention down the called up capital. So out of 60,000 which we were supposed to call up, out of that we have called up only for rupees 54,000. As it was mentioned, only 9 rupees have been called. So 6,000 shares multiplied by 9 gives you an amount of 54,000 which was supposed to be called. Now what is the paid up value? That means how much amount you have actually received is something that you have to figure out. So if in the question it was mentioned that out of all the shareholders, one shareholder who was holding 500 shares paid only rupees 7 rupees on that. That means 7 rupees were paid only for 500. Rest 5,500 paid the complete amount of 9 rupees. So we have already received complete amount of rupees 9 for 5,500 share. Let's see the total of that. So if you can see, we have already described it, fully received. That means 5,500 shareholders gave all the amount. That means 9 rupees was completely provided. That gives you 49,500. Out of all those 6,000 shareholders or 6,000 shares, 500 shares were paid only for rupees 7. That means 3,500 were only paid. Rest 2 rupees on 500 shares is unpaid. Let's mention it down. So if you can see, we have described here total paid up capital is 53,000, total unpaid capital is 1,000 which is yet to come. So which is equivalent to the total called up capital which was rupees 54,000. So this is how you prepare the total of issued capital, subscribed capital, called up capital and paid up capital. Hence, this is how the bifurcation is supposed to be done. So I hope this illustration was clear into how the segregation is supposed to be done for all these types of capitals. So thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned with Ekeeda and keep subscribing to Ekeeda.